Ah, Ratalaker games. Those guys and girls pump out short, easy games for the single purpose of benefiting trophy hunters at a frightening rate. But is this an intricate World of Warcraft dungeon or a Saints Row dungeon, complete with dildo sword? Now, I've got a long history of mispronouncing these things, but for the benefit of this video, I'm just going to call them Ratalaker. Probably right, but please tell me in the comments if I'm not. Now, when you go into their games, you need to go in expecting basic, and basic is certainly what you get here. Amstrad level graphics and comparable music. But if retro gaming appeals to you, then you might find some enjoyment here. With no real story to speak of, you play a nameless, generic fantasy hero. You jump into randomly generated levels where you must locate the key, then the exit in platforming fantasy action. As you work your way through, you'll be met with all matter of new enemies. They all look different and there's a fair variety. However, each seems to come under a category and is just a more intense version of what you faced before. For example, the World 1 version can shoot fireballs, but the World 2 version shoots fireballs in multiple directions. At the end of each world, as expected, you'll run into a boss. The mechanics are, again, very generic but passable stuff. You'll find yourself struggling rarely. You build up currency and upgrade weapons, armor, and miscellaneous items each time you go back to the game's hub, and they make a good difference, but again, truth be told, you'll not likely be having much in the way of problems. I'm not saying it's an offensively easy game like many Ratalaker titles, but even remotely seasoned gamers will tear through it in short order. For what it is, a very short retro title, you can do a lot worse. Ratalaker games aren't exactly bad, they just tend to be rushed, which leaves me quite curious what they could do if they actually tried. But they won't, because trophy hunters keep them in business. I award Devious Dungeon a 6 out of 10, and I'm quietly looking forward to getting around to the sequel. Okay, rant time. Potential spoilers. So, how many retro gamers do we have out there? By that, I don't just mean those who like retro games now, but those who grew up with titles like this. Back in my day, the war for video game dominance was a bit more diverse than it is today. I guess it was Amstrad versus Spectrum versus Commodore versus Atari versus Amiga. Back in the day where they knew the limitations imposed on them and focused on gameplay entirely instead of wasting resources making everything look pretty. Using emulators, I still play these games. The nostalgia, the taking me back to a better time, and the incredible games that benefit from their own simplicity. Go get an Amstrad CPC emulator, boot up Treasure Island Dizzy, Omami, Super Pipeline 2, Feud, or quite frankly anything. See what gaming was like before it was sodomized with microtransactions, loot boxes, and vile online communities. Now, it needs to be said that only trophy hunters will really understand what I'm trying to say here. The issue with Ratalaker games, folks say, well, a platinum is a platinum, and I agree. My issue is stacking. So if you were to go out and you were to purchase a Ratalaker game for, an average of $3 for one, and you complete it, fine. Okay, yeah, you've just gotten in maybe half an hour to a couple of hours, the same amount of points as a person would doing Skyrim or The Witcher 3 or a larger AAA title. But still, you've completed a game. Good job. It's when a person purchases it 5, 6 times across all the different regions. So, in the time which it's taken a guy playing the likes of Skyrim, The Witcher 3, and has got his platinum at the end of it. Another guy might, joking apart, could have 100 different platinums if he just buys a whole bunch of Ratalaika games and platinums them across each region. And that just makes a mockery out of trophy hunting. So if you want to be a real trophy hunter and you want to get your level up, you can't play the AAA games. You have to purchase all these games multiple times over. And doesn't that not defeat the object? I think Sony really need to overhaul the trophy system in some form or another. So, what did you think of Devious Dungeon? What do you think of Ratalaika Games? Do you have the same gripe as me when it comes to stacking? Tell me in the comments below. Like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Later, folks.